Take one. Right.
So I think you guys can take 1 minute to get your coffees or whatever in your TOC cup. That is the only time which is allowed. Let me quickly. Okay, I've lost control for some. Yeah. Okay, let's start.
Okay, so
Right.
I'll just quickly a minute talk about, I don't know, Saurabh, you don't need an introduction for sure. And we all are here because we know how good you are in when we talk about counseling and education services. But then I think this is very important as a part two, where we are going to be talking about how to collaborate. All of us are working in our silos and we don't know, there are so many things that all of us are an experts into. And when we come together as a collaboration, it's going to be a wow kind of a thing. So I think yeah, it's going to be a wow Wednesday for us today because we're going to really understand from your side that how we can potentially collaborate when we talk about counseling and education service world, how we can actually have few terms to make collaboration successful, whether that's a pillar for counseling practice, collaboration philosophy, or a collaboration modus operandi. So I think that it's going to be very interesting. We got some very interesting poll response. Thank you to everyone who have responded to it. I know uh, even if we wanted to, many of us want to be part of the session today, but we have our own commitments and it does become a problem. So the recording is there. We'll try to share the recording with the larger group. But thank you for all of us being here today at 7 o'clock. And I'm sure, it's going to be, we all are going to go back with a wiser Wednesdays with us. So Saurabh, we are all ready to become more wiser and we're excited for the session. Over to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Nidhi, for that very kind and generous introduction. Welcome, everyone. I hope I am audible to you all. And if there are any challenges, please put it in the chat so that we can address that. This is part two of what we started, but this is very different from part one. So even if you have not attended part one, it's okay because there is very little which will overlap from the previous session.
Saurabh, is your slide, sorry, is there a slide on the full screen mode? Because we can see
No,
your,
not yet, not yet.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so why isn't it on full screen mode is because of this. So I just want to start from this slide. This is the only overlap between the previous session and this one. This is from my copyrighted model called Spheres of Understanding. And let me just begin from here, guys. So career decision making happens in these different spheres. First is external knowledge. You see, you observe, and then based on that information, you try to make a career decision. But it is not completely, wholesome unless and until you know yourself also. Because if you see something outside, if an opportunity is there, whether it is good for you or not, you need to understand that. So the combination will help you judge a particular opportunity, whether it is relevant or not. Then it leads to the third part, which is called mapping opportunities, or the door, as I like to call it, wherein you learn how to apply for that opportunity. Okay, so this job is there, this program is there, this course is there, this internship is there. How do I make sure that I get success? So that is mapping opportunities. And once we keep repeating this cycle again and again and again, many times in life, then we become really good at making career decisions. That is how an individual makes career decisions. And once you become really good at it, then you reach something which I like to call the gift, which means creating your own career opportunities. And when we create our own career opportunities, then we stop thinking about what the world is saying, how other people are perceiving it. Then we know what is good for us. Then we know what our purpose is, what our passion is, what makes us happy, makes us joyful, makes us give back to the society, and also be financially successful, and so on and so forth. Right? This is how career decisions are made. Now, based on this, we are going to advance into our, session today. Okay, so let me quickly move on to this part now. And this is something that we all experienced at the fantastic retreat in OP Jindal in December. The theme was innovation and collaboration, and that is what inspired me to actually start working on this. Because I have been doing this for many years now, some close to 10 years, the collaboration part. but I never really thought of putting it together. So here are my thoughts. Um, we just saw this. This is how career decisions are made. There is external knowledge, there is knowledge of self, there is mapping opportunities, right? Now, what I've tried to do is I've tried to map where all of us as education service providers, different education service providers, IECs, and so on, we are placed where exactly. When it comes to external knowledge as to what programs are there, what universities are there, what facilities are offered, what scholarships are offered, all those things, a lot of us work on education portals, exhibitions, events. All those activities fall into career exploration. They are helping clients and students understand what externally is available. A lot of us felt that when we were, younger, that we didn't have enough knowledge, we didn't have enough exposure. So all the people who are working on the external knowledge sphere, they're trying to create more and more exposure among people. They're trying to give you the best possible information available. Tomorrow we have a session on funding of higher education, right? That is again something that will help people make better informed decisions. Again, it is external knowledge. And most students make their decisions based on external knowledge only. So once they see something, they are able to understand or click with it, or however they go for it. Most students, most clients make their decisions on external knowledge. That is why you will see a lot of businesses working in that area. However, as we understood earlier, that if you do not know yourself better, you will do a lot of trial and error, which is great because life is like that. You should do trial and error. However, that will probably not make the best career decisions, and it will prolong your journey. I keep repeating in my sessions across the board that I spent nearly 7 years in engineering before I decided to quit. And it was not that I was bad at engineering. It was just something that didn't fulfill me. So do you have 7 years to spend? And in today's instant gratification wala generation, I think we can all probably agree that yes, they will not invest so much time. They want to know everything before they make a decision. That is where knowledge of self becomes very important. So a lot of us players, we work on the knowledge of self. I work a lot on psychometrics. I work a lot on counseling, personal counseling, one to one. And in the last session, also, we discussed that it is important to know one, but how do you know somebody? You can know somebody in two ways. One is you do detailed counseling with them. You spend a lot of time with them, probe them with questions, try to understand different aspects of their life, and you will get a very accurate picture of that person. And you will be able to understand which direction should this person move into. If you want to fasten that process, or if you want to counsel hundreds of students, thousands of students per month, then probably that detailed counseling will either become too expensive for you to manage, also for them to take services from you also. So then psychometrics come into the picture, and understanding psychometric assessments, interpreting them, is very important, and is kind of a skill that someone should teach you. It's not something that you can gain on your own. So this is the second area where a lot of businesses are set up right now. Then there is the third area, the mapping opportunities part. So you understood yourself, you understood what is out there. You need help to apply to that opportunity. That is where counselors, IECs, test prep companies, profile builders, we all work in this direction. We all work in this area also, because we are like, we'll tell you, we'll help you, we'll make it easier, the process becomes easier. And then there are aggregators also, like Cialfo is there, and Univariety. What they are doing is they're providing tech platforms where everyone can, the counselors can put all their clients together and see the timeline and so on and so forth. So there are different businesses which are catering to the different spheres of career decision making, different aspects of career decision making, right? And that is why we see so many players in the education ecosphere. And it is sometimes very difficult to understand what exactly a particular organization is doing, unless and until you go deep into the industry. And I'll be very honest with you, before I joined TOC, I did not know what Merito did. But now I know what Merito does, right? Because, well, now I've interacted with some of them. Also, when we help our clients apply to certain places, we see the Merito logo under that and so on. So I'm just taking an example over there. Putting or categorizing different business or service providers like this will give you a better understanding of how the education industry is placed. And this is where somebody who's working, especially on external knowledge, would love to collaborate or should collaborate with somebody who's working on the knowledge of self sphere, or somebody who's helping people in, mapping the opportunity or creating their own opportunities. Similarly for others. So I hope this part is clear. Okay. Now let's talk about collaboration opportunities, which brings us to the activity. Now, since you've understood the different spheres, I have mentioned those spheres in in this particular activity also. So if you have any doubts or questions, please do ask. It's very difficult for me to, open up my chat while I'm sharing the screen. So, Nidhi, please help me out if there is something that I'm missing.
So,
Okay.
Saurabh, just to add on, Puneet has just given a comment here that yes, after, what you said, after being part of the TOC, a lot of business collaborations have been seen, and he's just trying to comment on what you have just said that.
Excellent. Okay. Um, then let me start. So I would like you to, in your notebook on a piece of paper, if you can draw this table with 5 columns. The first column is the sphere of understanding. The second is the service provided by you or your organization, what services you provide in that sphere of understanding. Then, do you provide these services in-house? Or do you want a collaborator for this sphere of understanding? What can be the potential collaboration? Okay, so these are the 5 columns. I'll explain each one in detail. I'll take an example and then showcase that to you. So this is the activity, guys. Those who are joining in, on your notebook, on your piece of paper, if you can draw this table, sphere of understanding, service provided by you or your organization. Do you provide in-house all the services that are required for that sphere of understanding? Do you need a collaborator? And then what can be a potential collaboration? Okay, so this will help us in understanding whether we need collaborators or not, what kind of collaborations is needed, and so on. So I'll take my own example, my own practice, SN Mentoring. This is my second startup. The first startup was called Happy Career Project. I still retain the brand. So in the external knowledge sphere, the outside sphere, what do we provide? I write a few articles for media. I do podcasts. I make reels. So in order to help people better understand the external world about careers and education, right? So that is what I provide, or SN Mentoring provides as far as external knowledge sphere is concerned. Do I provide exhibitions? No. Do I do career fairs? No. Right? So that is a potential area of collaboration then. Do I provide all these things that I mentioned in-house? Yes, I do. Do I need a collaborator? Absolutely. What can be the collaboration? If somebody wants to invite me over for a webinar, a seminar, I would love to go there. If somebody wants to co-write an article with me, somebody wants to get into research, I would love to get into that, right? Also, I would like that, if somebody can provide me interns for managing my own content. So that is another collaboration that I'm seeking. And for the outside external sphere, recently, Avinav Sharma, who's also an AGP member, and his company MSM Unified, they started something called the Eduverse Summit, and they have invited me, Priyank, and in the next session they are inviting Neeraj and Anju Jairaj and Arushi Bakshi. So where is Avinav getting all these wonderful talent? He's getting it from collaborating with different people through this forum. So that is what the outside sphere helps in, right? So if you can also mention these things in your table, what do you provide for outside or improving the external knowledge for our potential clients? Do you provide it in house? If yes, and do you need a collaborator? What kind of collaboration are you looking for? So you have to think about it. Once you start thinking, okay, this is also something that I can do, and then you list it out. You tell the world, hey, I'm looking for panelists for my webinar. This is the topic. Who would like to um, join in? That is how you get collaboration going. Next, inside. So we provide psychometric assessment and counseling. We provide it in-house. Do we need a collaborator? Yes, we need a collaborator. What? In this time now, what I will do is I'm talking about collaboration from my side, what I can offer. So we can do this part for your clients. Let's say you get a lot of clients for study abroad. Now you want that there should be some initial, counseling which happens, but you do not have the bandwidth to do it, which is quite normal. Um, and you do not have enough people in your let's say geographically, if you're limited that way, you don't have the right counselors available or psychometricians available, then yes, we can definitely do this for you because we do it online. Then we can also provide feedback on other assessment reports. We can also, help in behavioral counseling. So a lot of people, they get the assessment done, but the interpretation is a challenge for them, and that's why they start losing, faith in psychometric assessments and reports. So we do that. I actually interpret a lot of reports for a lot of clients who have already taken psychometric assessments from XYZ, and this is I'm talking about all over India, including things like brain mapping and other parts. And then I interpret the report for them that this is what this means. This is what this means. This is how you map your career journey to this particular suggestions or recommendation made in the report. This is the insight sphere. Then is the door or mapping opportunities. So how do you help somebody, mapping opportunities or applying for opportunities? What do we do? We do profile building, applications, research, capstone projects, campaigns and initiatives. Campaigns and initiatives like startups or some social campaign, SDG related campaign. We also do SAP review, resume review, interview prep. We do this in-house, but we still want more collaborations. How? I do not conduct any competition. I tried listing an essay competition on Unstop, 2 years ago, had zero response. So I'm not good at marketing at all. However, if you are organizing some competitions, we would love for our clients to participate in those competitions. If you have an immersion program, like summer schools are happening, right? And I have been looking through the chat, waiting for the Excel sheet where all the summer programs will be listed. Have not come across it yet. If you have it, please share. But I'm preparing my own, and soon I'll be
It's
able to.
there.
Is there? Please
There.
share it with me. I'm
It's
missing
shared
it.
like 9 times. I'll share it for the 10th time. Don't worry.
Thank you so much. Because I was preparing my own now. So I thought, okay, I'll just share it with everyone. So immersion programs, summer schools, feature opportunities. Now, what do I mean by feature opportunities is like a lot of our clients, a lot of our students, they do wonderful work, right? Excellent research, excellent work, excellent outcome and impact. But they are not able to market themselves well. They're not highlighted. Their opportunities are not highlighted. Sometimes the school doesn't care. Sometimes, they just miss out on media opportunities or something or the other keeps happening. So if you are somebody, an organization who would like to highlight student achievements, right? We would love to collaborate with you so that the student benefits from it. Similarly, visa assistance, we don't do in-house. I would love to, interact with more visa people. I already work with 2, 3 in different locations, but always, open for more. Test prep, we don't do in-house. SAT, ACT, GMAT, GRE, or Indian test prep. So I already collaborate with a few, would love to collaborate with more. Pre-campus training, we don't do, and so on and so forth. Then the gift sphere, what we do in-house is mentorship for tech for good, helping students, use technology for creating impact, SDGs related impact, personal branding, writing, podcasting, networking. This is something that I personally mentor people on. And what would I like to collaborate with others on? If you can provide behavioral guidance for people, which means more in-person mentorship, which we don't want to. We have created a small division internally, but I'm still not very, comfortable with that fact. I would like somebody else to, take it up. Um, if you are a venture builder, if you can help young people, set up their own startups. So I can definitely mentor in the initial part, but then after that, after the seed fund, what do you do with your startup? So there are companies like Venture Builders, and I work with one which is based out of Gurgaon. It is called FAFC Ventures. So you should definitely check it out. We do keep recommending clients over there if they have good startup ideas. Then training and certification providers. If you are an organization which can provide a certification or a training which can help in somebody's resume, for example, Swagat and Flame University, they did a wonderful job last few months. And some of my mentees joined in. They had a wonderful experience over there. and of course, spiritual guidance. Those of you who appreciate that or accept it that it's needed, would love to connect with you and provide that more. This is just a chart from as a mentoring perspective. Now just replace all of this with you or your organization. What do you need? What kind of collaboration would you be interested in? Once you have that chart, then you know these are the people that I want to work with. In some of the polls today, we asked you how many of you would like to, add more services, but because of lack of capital or lack of human resources, you're not able to. And I think the highest chances was because of lack of capital or lack of, resources, we are not able to. But everyone wants to. And now let's come to that part. So this was the activity. Let's get into the nitty gritties. So yes, very fancy name, the collaboration manifesto. So in my opinion, and I've been talking about this for many years now, because I started my journey from a psychometric startup, then moved on to test prep, did a lot of work with test prep. So this is where that comes from. There is guidance counseling. Many of us are just, amazing behavioral mentors. We probably have counseling psychology background. We are empaths. We are naturally talented to advise and listen and then, help people learn better. Then there is career counseling. I like to call myself a career counselor, more on the strategic side, analyst, psychometrician, naturally talented to interpret data, connect the dots, research and present insights. Education counseling, problem solvers and connectors who are like, okay, this is what you need, this is how you get it, right? So they are able to solve that problem. And then sales counseling. This is probably the first interaction that a client or a parent has, with an education service provider. Mostly, as entrepreneurs and as organization leaders, we are doing all four. We have to do the sales part, we have to do the career counseling part, we have to do the education counseling, and reluctantly, like in my case, we also have to do the guidance counseling part. Why? Because there are no resources available. If you are not going to do it, who else is going to do it? But we all know that probably there is one or maybe two areas that you really like to contribute to. The other two areas you have to do it maybe reluctantly, and it takes away a lot of your precious creative time, which you would rather invest in doing the other things that you really like. A lot of you entered counseling because of some passion. Where was that passion? Was it in career counseling, guidance, education, or sales? Where was that passion? And if you want to focus more on that passion, then probably you should collaborate in order so that other parts of the counseling spectrum are managed by others. Because if you try to do everything yourself, you will hit a glass ceiling very quickly. You will not be able to grow your business beyond a certain point. All right. So these are the pillars of a counseling practice, in my opinion. Now, what is a collaboration philosophy? Trust. Why do people come to you? Why do clients come to you? Why do parents and schools and principals, they come to you? Because of trust. They trust you. And why is trust such an important commodity in a country like India? Because we are a growing country. There are still a lot of things which are needed, wherein standardization comes in, wherein you know that the service quality, or if somebody is saying something that has some value, it is true, it is real. All those things do not really exist in India, most of India right now. So that is why people trust the other person to do something. And our constant endeavor, if we want to collaborate with somebody else, has to be this: we need to keep increasing the trust. Trust is the currency with which collaboration will happen. If we do not increase, or if we do not keep printing more currency around trust, the collaborations will collapse. How do we do this? So all of us are gunning for one thing, which is client success, right? Now, in order to achieve client success, there is one counselor, one participant who we will call the referrer. For example, me, I have a particular client who needs a particular kind of guidance. I don't provide it, and I'm looking for somebody who can provide that guidance, right? So I ultimately find somebody, another counselor, another education service provider, and I'm like, you know what, you go to this person. The person who receives the client is the receiver. The person who refers the client is the referrer. Both of them want client success, correct? Both of them want to increase client success. And if we are able to increase client success for both of them, and if the client ultimately does achieve success, then what happens? Then trust of the client in both the referrer and the receiver increases. The word of mouth for the referrer increases. The number of referrals for the receiver increase. The referrer finally was not able to, earlier was not able to offer a lot of services, but now can offer increased services. Why? Because he knows there is somebody who can take care of it. So their portfolio of services increases. And the receiver who gets the client, who receives the client, their expertise increases. Why? Because, as I said, career counseling or any kind of education counseling is a practice. The more you practice, the more your expertise. You are in many ways like, medical doctors and lawyers and CAs. The more clients you have, the variety of clients you have, your expertise increases. In this case, it is a win-win-win scenario. So how does this work? By only one thing, one basic ultimate philosophy, which is keep increasing trust. All right. So I hope this is clear. Moving on, let me share some experiences and why. As I said, I've come from different backgrounds. I have developed multiple GDPI VAT modules. Now, I made sure that I was a freelancer because I wanted to understand the education industry. And I already joined a startup right after leaving my IT job, worked there for 9 months. I was the first employee, and then I was the first employee to leave the job also, because I understood that if I need to understand the education ecosystem, I cannot be an employee in an organization. Nothing wrong with the organization. The problem is then I will be limited to the organization's scope. I will not learn exactly what are the challenges people face. So that's when I decided to become a freelancer. And as a freelancer, I have developed multiple GDPI VAT modules, multiple VA modules for multiple standardized tests and entrance examinations in India. And I actually, for a company, I developed the entire international education vertical, edited and reviewed bunch of SOPs, mock interviews. I have, helped other counselors by servicing their clients for different areas where they could not contribute. So it involved both UG, PG, MBA, LLM, PhD in India and abroad. As I said earlier, I interpret psychometric brain mapping and disability assessments for other counselors and other clients, and developed a bunch of corporate training, customized modules, teacher training modules. I take a lot of webinars on different topics, highly diversified, I guess. So, and while doing all this, I've worked with some 50 plus organizations across the world. Now, these organizations, I'm not talking about schools and universities. That is a different number. I've worked with 50 plus other service providers across the world. And I work in a very plug and play fashion, right? So this is some of the, while doing all of this, I've had bad experiences. There are some education providers who have still not paid up, money. I'm very bad at that, bad businessman that way. But out of all that experience, that is where all this philosophy is coming from. And as Puneet sir was saying, he has seen a lot of business collaboration. I've already collaborated with more than 10 TOC members, and I'm working with them regularly now. Why? Because I'm pretty clear about how we are collaborating. And how are we collaborating? This is how we collaborate, guys. Now, all of us understand that we need to keep increasing trust. You have to be very clear and very reciprocative in revenue sharing. If you are going to get X% by referring your client to a receiver counselor, then when that receiver counselor also refers the client to you, you should also probably have X% or something that you're both agreeing on. Very, very clear and reciprocating. And some of the people that I've worked with in TOC, they follow the same funda. They follow the same exact principle. Second is, you need to make sure that the person who's a referrer person who brought in the client by doing a lot of sales counseling, that person gets equal or majority credit of client success. That once, that client has come to you, you are doing the servicing, you're managing the operations, but the sales counseling was managed by the referrer. And even now, if something wrong happens or there is the panic situation is there, the panic situation will always have we will have with multiple clients. They will first call the referrer and they will not call you first. They will call the referrer first. So the referrer needs to take equal or majority credit of client success. Okay, I'll tell you why it's important. A lot of people don't follow this. They say, once we've referred, our job is done, which is okay. It might work for you. But in the long term, actually, it will have less benefit rather than you getting involved in it. So referrer has to be the sales counselor. In this case, receiver has to take the other counseling roles, all the other three counseling roles: education, career, and guidance. But in these two roles, one counselor should not, infringe or, kind of encroach on the other person's stuff. There has to be minimal to no interference in each other's work. Why? Because if you start doing that, then there are a lot of ego clashes. Then there are like, I know better and you don't know anything. Those kind of things happen and the collaboration will fall. Ultimately, who loses? The client loses. And if the client loses, then the trust is decreased in the client, in the referrer, and in the receiver. And our purpose is to keep increasing trust, not decreasing. Right? So this has to be absolutely clear that the referrer has to be the sales counselor, the receiver has to take the other counselor's roles. The referrer has to be kept in loop for major developments with the client. Even if the referrer doesn't want to, and if you are the receiver, please make sure that you keep the referrer in loop. Because communication, transparency, that is the key here to increasing trust. The referrer then knows that, okay, fine, even if the receiver is getting more business later on through multiple other things, the referrer knows that there are business opportunities. And in the next case, they can probably do more revenue sharing, which increases trust. You should share digital and any other assets with each other. Again, it increases trust. And most importantly, when the trust is increased, then hopefully there is no possibility of any kind of cannibalization, which means you can easily create a joint front in front of the client. Whatever you are suggesting, whatever the client is suggesting, whatever you are suggesting and whatever the referrer is suggesting, once you come to a consensus, then you can actually put a joint effort, put a joint front, and deal with the client and tell the parents collectively. Because you will, and at least I have experienced a lot of clients who will try to put you against somebody else, right? Nahi, un sir ne to aise bola tha, that madam said this, and so on and so forth. So then, in order to make sure that the client does not take you for a ride, it is important that you create a joint front. And this again, why does this need to be there? Because it increases trust. So yeah, this is more or less it. I would love to have more questions. That's why I kept this session shorter, because last time we went over time, and would love to have more interactions on this. Let me stop sharing the screen. And let me see some of the chat. Okay, so, oh, thank you so much. Very nice comments. Now, would you like to do a live exercise on this? Would you, because there are certain people like Apurva is saying, kindly share immersion programs, Excel here. Okay. Are there any other organizations that offer feature opportunities? Anu is asking that. So let's take this as a live example over here. So what Anu is saying is, are there any organizations that offer feature opportunities? Now, feature opportunities mean that if your student client has achieved something beautiful and they should be featured, they should get some limelight Is there somebody who can provide something like that? Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Saurabh. Thank you for sharing. So we have a blog section on the website, which is very popular, and we do allow some students to write blogs. Like, for example, if they've attended a certain summer school experience, or they've been part of, they've won a particular award that should be popularized more. So we club it with obviously the kind of offerings that we have. So, for example, if we are talking about profile building and the importance of summer schools, so students can also be the ones who can create that, and obviously they get recognition in terms of they get the link, their name, and their school, and everything is highlighted, so they can always share it with their friends and make themselves feel great about it. So that's one place. I don't know if that works.
Beautiful. Charushila, would you be open that if some other counselor's student achievements be highlighted on your blog?
I would be open. They have to be open.
Yes, because obviously, see, Charushila hosts the blog. She has made it successful. So it is going to, add to her marketing and branding as well. But then what is the common ground that, both of you can come to? So, for example, we do something. It's a advanced communications fellowship. Basically, all the students who have achieved a lot of things, what we do is we teach them. We mentor them with the help of some global mentors how to deliver whatever they have done in the form of a TED talk. Right? So somebody who has done nanocatalysis, research, or somebody who's worked on the overlap of gender equality and climate change, how can they present their research in less than 15 minutes is something that we work on. And if you think you have one of your students has worked on such an area, we are more than, open to hosting you. I know that the branding issue was a thing. That is why I made sure that SN mentoring is nowhere to be seen in that entire fellowship. All right. So it is only focused on, it's a completely non-profit activity. I'm registering a non-profit for it now. It is focused on the young person's achievements. And we accept applications from students between the ages of 10 to 24. Right. So if you have somebody like that, please share. I remember when I shared that once in the TOC group, a counselor from CMS Lucknow, she had approached me. She said, one of my students is doing this wonderful thing. And I said, yeah, excellent. Please ask her to apply. We would love to have her on board. Right. So, yeah, there you go. Bhakti, do you want to go first and then we can go to the comment, I think?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it depends on what is also the motivation of the showcase. If the motivation of the student showcase is for the student, it's to, sort of boost their morale and confidence, then I think the most effective thing, and in any way to avoid brand clashes, one of the most effective things to do is to ask the organization that has offered that opportunity in the first place to showcase that student success story. Whether it's a university where the student might have done a program, or it could be any third party vendor, like if it's Swagat's program or your program. I think I find that there are very few blogs like the one Charu mentioned, which is run by University Connections, but there are very few such blogs or companies right now that are actually showcasing student success from another um, provider. So there is always that sense of not my student, not showcasing success, right? So Charu, more power to you. I think that's fantastic. What you're doing is really good.
No, it just creates some bit of equity, because let's assume the student just maybe was selected for, let's say, a Stanford program, and now and it wasn't, let's say, our student, but we do have some how should I put it? We have a great relationship going with the school from where the student comes, and now this counselor reaches out to you and says, this kid was doing so well. We are already featuring him on our website, and would you like, I said, then that's the time we tell them that why doesn't he write something about his own experience? It will benefit 10 other students. And so again, you're very right that we need to find common ground. We need to figure out what's that common ground that does not make it sound promotional or does not make it sound as if you're trying to, use the child's success to make it your own in some way. So it just has to be, that I think that balance needs to be arrived at.
And like something like this happened actually. I mean, Swagat wrote something, and I think the Red Pen published it, right? So that is another way of collaborating. Also, I mean,
Cross-linking, yeah.
yeah. So that happens. And then, of course, TOC is a non-profit, so you can always have awards over here. But if somebody has to take that charge, obviously, so that's another discussion altogether. I'm not going to get into that. Um, there's a question from Sapna. I am a student life associate who provides opportunities students outside of academics. Oh, excellent. Is there any date sheet that you can share which has details of credible opportunities for senior school students that will help them in building their portfolios?
Yes, 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 yes. The sheet is there. It's okay. So I'm just going to put this out there. There is a sheet. It's beautifully populated. It was used extensively for 2023. Now we have recirculated it because we need individual organizations to update their own information for 24. And so what happens is those who choose to update it, they choose to update it. It's a task of follow-up also. You'll be surprised how much we need to follow up with people to update their own program information. So we're doing that. And hopefully don't look at it as one absolute sheet where एक बार खोल दिया तो everything has to be there. Then you need to keep visiting it because it's a dynamic sheet. It's an evolving sheet. I mean, and even a month later, you will keep seeing opportunities there that are new. So my suggestion is how you utilize any repository or any resource on TOC at least is it's not a one-time thing. You have to keep visiting it, whether it's the directory or this repository, keep visiting it for update. So yes, Hina, I'll call you after this for that again. Okay, bye.
Excellent, excellent. I would love to take one more example of collaboration, maybe on referrals, if that is possible. If anybody would like to participate in that. Okay, so ideally, what happens in referral cases is that it is very difficult to track the progress of the client. I don't know. I mean, please share your experiences also. That it is very difficult to track the progress of the client that you have referred to another counselor or receiver in that manner. How many of you have had I'm going back to the poll that we had conducted earlier, that a lot of people said that we lack the trust in the quality of service offered. How many of you have experienced that? Please, Hina, share.
So this is regarding definitely the referrals that we give it to another counselor when it comes to our students, right? If we don't have an expertise, then we transfer it to another one. So I have seen I have seen two of my referrals for sure, who have brainwashed my child to go to US, where the child never wanted to go to US. Child wanted to stay back in India, very much wanted to study in public university, do research, such universities such as TIFR or IISCR. When you brainwash the student against these research institutes, I absolutely condemn that. And Saurabh sir, you have already recently transferred my referral to you. I know with lot of trust and confidence, I actually allow the students to explore and do a lot of work. And now I sit on the head of the referrals also, so how I was sitting on your head as well. So yes, this is my two instances. I'm saying pushing the student to US. Why? Because you are getting money out of it. Why are you doing that? Don't do it, please don't do it. That's what I think. That's the only thing. But yes, I have faced that very badly.
Well, yeah, I've heard a lot of such things where people are pushed deliberately for study abroad. And Hina, thank you for the referral. How I deal with it is I'll share openly. I basically include, as I said, I include the referral to the entire conversation. But Hina, I think since you're joined with the school, maybe we can do it if you want, but it'll be more work for you. So you tell me. So usually I just add them to the entire conversation. And I think Anjali also had raise her hand. And
So just to add on, Saurabh here also, because my primary work right now is with the nationals. So if there are any students coming up for international, that's not my expertise. I also give referrals. But I've also realized that a lot of relationship and things work on the transparency of the counselor. So at times even counselors don't want to be very transparent. They're very insecure, maybe. So again, the thin line, or I would say the thicker line, is about trust. If I am referring to you, I'm genuinely not going to, if that was my expertise, why would I even refer it to you? But what I really expect if I'm referring to you is transparency from the counselor's end. So I've seen that there have been, like, a little bit of insecurities at times when you're referring. So that's my learning so far in the reference.
please.
Ina, go ahead.
Okay, I would also want to speak about the reverse side of it. So people who are on the position of premium service, I know they're doing their job very nicely. I understand that. I completely understand. But if they see that the counselor is connected to the school, it's not about the student also, but it's to the counselor. The pressure that a counselor faces, oh boss, you do it, we'll pay you fees, we'll pay you this, we'll pay you that. But we're talking about students, not money. I know it is money. At the end of the day, it comes about money because these days I'm not learning a lot about business. But yes, and it's very terribly I'm learning about business. But yes, it's don't do that. I don't know. Definitely the ones who want to do it does it neutrally, but then constantly pushing may not work. Every week I'm fitting into the push, and that also pushes me away from the industry also somehow. I know of lately I have been started like pushing myself away from so a lot of groups, a lot of people, just because a lot of push is happening because of the group of school that I'm carrying around me. So yes, that is another one. Yeah.
That is true because they're now using you as a sales funnel for themselves, right? Yeah. Please go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just very quickly. This just for everyone's benefit, reiterating the session is being recorded and might be circulated. Just putting it out there. But in true TOC style, I think every conversation is an important one, and it is a safe space. So we don't entertain that kind of judgment. So just putting it out there. My 2 cents on this is I get a lot of calls asking for references of counselors, independent counselors. And honestly, I will be very honest when I say this. I think all of us do in when it comes to references, we operate out of a certain bias of relationship, of our limited knowledge. And I think that's not fair. And I think there are many other counselors out there who might be better positioned to be a reference from my side. And so, as we wade through this conversation, and thank you for bringing this up, Saurabh, and discussing it. If we were to have a sheet of ICs where, yes, another sheet, but where ICs are able to talk about their areas of expertise and their regions, etc., I think it will be a ready reckoner for a lot of us who get so many. I get on an average, I'm not making this up. I get 2 calls a day on an average for an IC reference. And now I'm like, you know what, everybody's on TOC, just check, right? Like if they're a TOC member. Else I'm just like, okay, what is the region? So the way I operate is, okay, what region are you looking at? Do you want in person? Are you open to virtual? So I do a little bit of that need analysis and give my limited information. But I'm guessing there might be others who might not even operate from that basic need analysis and might just say, go to this person. So I think that as a solution, a central repository of IECs with their areas of expertise and regions of operations would be very, very useful for the community.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. So I never claim to be an Oxbridge expert. I never claim to be an Ivy League expert. Yes, we've had admits, but I never claim to be that. And so, yeah, that is out there from my side. I think Ashima, then Neerav, and then Sapna, and then Anjali.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, yes, I was hearing the whole conversation, and there's something that I'd like to share over here. I've never been close to my students working with any of the IECs, but there's something that I'd like to share over here, that when a school counselor has a policy in school that they say, okay, if you don't have a specific grade, then please do not go ahead and push yourself and apply to universities which are highly selective, which are probably not a best fit for you as well. And that is sometimes we counsel them for. But then sometimes students want to have that hand holding, and we are probably not able to do that because we don't have that kind of a counselor to the student ratio. And when they go to another counselor, the counselor says, you can apply to as many number of universities that you want to, because they're getting money out of it. There's no tap on it. And then what they really say is that what's the harm in just putting down your application? It's not the harm in putting down the application, but it's the extra work of the essay writing and the application, the stress that the child goes through. So it's like stating that your school counselor knows nothing, and what I'm telling you, go ahead and do that. Probably that's something that if this thing happens, then we as school counselors lose a little trust in referring the student, or not referring, but going ahead with the child going to another counselor outside, because the child needs extra support, extra help, more time with the counselor. And it's absolutely fine if they want to choose that. But guiding them just for their own benefit is something that I'd like to point out over here. Not all counselors do that, but yes, I've had people who do this as well, like pushing them to take up more APs, pushing them to take up SATs, even when they know that they've already got a perfect score of 1490. How much will the child really get? 15, 20, 50, 30? He may score lesser than that as well. Applying to extra universities, this is something that we really deal with. So I think even ICs should be a little mindful when they're suggesting, and it should be an advice that is feasible for the child, because in school counselors are also working, keeping this thing in mind. So I'd just like to share that.
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, I actively dissuade people from taking SAT, from sitting for GMAT, for sitting for GRE. Even Hina's referral, she wanted to do an MBA. I said, no, you're not ready for an MBA yet. So I actually actively dissuade people from doing all this. And I think what you were trying to say is, if we have a best practices kind of a model, maybe, guidelines that will work. Neerav, please.
Yeah, thank you. So the session was very nice. Firstly, I would like to say that. And adding to the values, what was being said over here, that whenever we give any reference, so for example, I also do that at my university. I may not have the program which a child is looking for, and when I come to them, I give them reference of two or three universities, and if they don't suffice that, I give them IEC's numbers. So giving only one number might feel that okay, this is some referral which is going on, or there is some benefit of mine. Say if I say go to Saurabh, he'll solve your problem. So I won't say that. You go to him, he's an expert in that, or you can go to this person or this person. So giving two or three referrals also raises the benchmark of the person whom I'm referring. So instead of saying only one person is expertise, there should be two or three referrals which everybody can add or should add, I would say. So it will also gain the trust what you are saying, and the other person will feel that okay, this person is genuinely trying to help me out, whether it is university, whether it is an counselor, anything. And in this way, I have referred to two or three students, and they have come back to me and said that, sir, the person whom you referred was so excellent that I cannot say his words. What? So in this way, our expertise can be used in the best possible manner. That is my experience, and I wanted to share to the platform that doing so, it will be collaborative also, and ultimately we are for the betterment of the child. If they succeed in their life, because a role what we feel is supreme ahead of everyone. So that's my sharing over here.
Beautiful. Client success, increase in trust. That is what we talked about. Thank you, Neerav.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Sapna. I guess you're next.
Hi, I'm not going to turn on my video. I'm tucked in the night suit now. So I think Ashima and Hina have already said a lot of what I'd like to say. I just want to add, so luckily for me, nobody's ever pushed me on business. That's never happened, Hina. You can call me up and I'll show you exactly how to put up that stance, and nobody ever dare talk to you about that. But what I have faced, and this is where my fear in collaboration comes in. The reason I think I like to stay quiet on forums, there are people. So I've had parents who come up and say, "Oh, we met this counselor, whoever. They say they know you very well." They assume that because that person has said that I know them that they know me very well, I am endorsing their services, which I'm not. Right? So this becomes extremely complicated. So somehow, as a school counselor, it becomes really difficult to hang out in forums, even a forum like TOC. Because and they open groups and they show, see, this is what your Sapna ma'am has written, this is what has happened. See, this is what she writes to me. So really, you have to kind of really, and I've now made it a part of my presentation to the parents and to students, my initial presentation. I said, just because somebody's saying that I am their friend doesn't mean I'm endorsing them. I've just actually gone ahead and said it. I actually have a slide which shows what are the school documents, what under no circumstances are we going to accept from anybody else, and what are the one or two things an independent counselor could help you in if you need it. So we've really gone out and spelled it out. But it is very awkward for people like us to collaborate, because we want to collaborate. We'd like to have good things. But at the same time, we don't want it to become like a marketplace, and we don't want our name to be misused. So it becomes really confusing then in this space.
No, absolutely right. I mean, this brings up the bigger question of business ethics, to be honest. I mean, from my perspective, like if you're a business owner and you're working with another institution, what are you going to use and how are you going to use? I mean, you need to be cognizant of that. Long term, this will not succeed. So yeah, the trust decreases when you do that. If you're working with a school counselor and you start saying all these random things, the trust decreases, which ultimately will not lead to collaboration. And I think Anjali, Kala.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I just want to add on Sapna's point before we move on to the next point. Sapna, I completely feel you. I get calls from people saying XYZ said you're a good friend. And I'm like, and it happens a lot. And it's very upsetting because being friendly and being good friends are two very different things. And I think in
I
TOC,
could be a good friend, but still I'm not endorsing what you're serving.
Exactly. There's a difference.
I'm great friends with a lot of people.
Exactly. And so the point is, I think, unfortunately, there is a lack of that professional ethic and judgment in a lot of people. It's misplaced. And somewhere it's obviously very, very deliberate. And somewhere it's a maybe very few instances. It's an innocent assumption, but that's like maybe very few. What I also would encourage, and that's why, when fears like this, right? The whole purpose of bringing this conversation mainstream and saying, you know what, let's bring it out in the open, let's talk about it. This conversation is also going to reverberate because we are going to now be mindful. Everyone in this room right now who's heard you is going to be very, very mindful of this and is going to maybe pass on this message and conversation to everyone else that they're talking to, that you need to be very cautious of how you project your relationships, because we all know each other. All of us have a network. Having a network does not mean that someone is endorsing or condoning your practice or your business or yourself, right? And I think this sensitivity needs to come out, but it can only happen when we have more such conversations and we have more streamlined and structured direction for different individuals to say, if you want a Sapna Goyal to endorse you, you can't make the assumption that just by having one conversation with her, she's going to endorse you, or she might never endorse you, or a Bhakti will never endorse you. But then how do you go about building your own network and creating your own, sort of good books or whatever? And I think that this challenge, because it's also a little confusing for IECs, There are some school counselors who are very approachable and don't mind it. And then there are not just school counselors, but there are others who, like university reps, they don't mind being quoted, they don't mind being used, but many of us do. So it's hard to tell. So this is good to know. And I think as long as we keep having these conversations out in the open, the message will at least start spreading a little bit. So thanks for bringing it up. It is a pain point. I
I
agree.
want to add something. When I'm saying endorse someone, I'm nobody to endorse anyone. I mean, I know that tons of counselors are doing excellent work. It's just that as a school, I am not endorsing anybody for certain services. It's not just you, anybody, right? So it's more about the service rather than the person. And yeah, I just would like that respect.
Absolutely. I think Anjali and Kala have been waiting.
Hi. So I just wanted to add, I've worked as an IEC. I work as a school counselor. And what I want to say is, as an IEC, when I started as an IEC, initially I wasn't very familiar with every field, and I would pick up the phone and call another counselor and say, hey, I have a student and I want to refer the student to you because I'm not very, I feel I'm not a good fit for the student. And that trust, that why I'm referring the student out to another counselor was the first thing that would come, that why aren't you taking up the student? Why are you referring the student to me? That was the first thing that would come up. And which is what, like we were talking about trust, that trust issue always comes in, that, why is she giving me that student? Something must be wrong. I mean, I wasn't asking for any cut. I wasn't asking for any commission. It was more that, I'm not the right fit. I want to pass on the student. I remember calling 3-4 counselors like that, but it was then I would just tell the student, listen, it's better you call the counselor directly rather than me calling. So these are the numbers, call them and go, these are the other good counselors in Delhi. And I would suggest I'm not the right fit for you. But there is another side also to the coin. When you say that it's IECs, it's also IECs not trusting another IEC. Then I've now when you see, I have had students come to me saying, I want to go to the US. And I've actually turned around and said, why US? I have actually convinced them saying, you're not fit to go to the US. You're not ready. This is not the right time for you to go to the US, because they were actually not ready. So everybody is not the type, which is what I feel. And it's not just me. I feel there are many people out there who are not really there for money. They're also there to educate the students and tell them that this is not the time for you to go for the masters, go for MBA, do your education in India. You're not mentally prepared to go, because you will eventually leave halfway and come back because you're still attached to your parents. Sometimes that is also the other side of the picture, which also happens even today in school. When I sit across the desk, there are parents who want to send their children to the US or send them overseas, and the child is not mentally prepared. So there are two sides to the picture. I know that there are students who put pressure on children, on the parents, but there is also parents who put pressure on the child. It's not just an IEC versus a school counselor. It's also the parent pressure. So we have to look at every aspect.
True. So true. Kala, would you like to go next?
Thanks. I'm just going to jump in, trying to keep this as constructive. So there's a few angles here. I mean, great discussion. Thanks. I was on the road, missed some part, but glad to be back. With the I think there are a few things that are changing the whole counseling space, right? One is the high level of customized counseling we're doing. Clearly, counseling as a service has become extremely highly customized in the last few years as compared. The choices also, and hence for a child, has become vast. And we are keeping student at the center of everything that we do, right? So there's a lot that's coming, which is the per unit customization is going extremely heavy. When that is happening, a lot of people, unlike the Sapnas of the world who have that kind of experience, are struggling, right? To deliver to the customer who is that centric customized service, and also living with the fear of thinking, am I doing right by the child? Am I limiting the child by my limited knowledge? And this is really the struggle that everybody is going through. And hence why collaboration has become the buzzword, because we realize that the collaboration is not to replace a service, but to enhance eventually for the child, right? So the only thing I'd say is that collaboration needs to happen is definitely cannot be ignored. However, this whole point of referring, the whole process of referral must happen with governance. What do I mean by governance? Is when you actually refer to another counselor, be in the consultative process with that counselor. When you refer, it's not like the child is just having a separate conversation without you. So you as a school counselor must be part of the conversation that the child is having with an external counselor. So what happens is when you start monitoring over time is when you understand how a particular IEC, and then you start building a circle of trust and a circle of reference. And I'd always say, come up with that governance. Referral without governance is just passing the buck. Referral needs to have governance around it. And it's not just transparency. So if you're saying that I need transparency of them reporting, we need to have governance as well. So take on the onus. If we are referring, be part of the conversation. That's very important. But the fact that collaboration for either process, for either insight, all of that has to definitely happen in the industry. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
So I think Bhakti has also raised her hand. Go ahead, Bhakti.
Sorry, this conversation is just so interesting, and it's also very, very important. I agree that it's ideal for school counselors to be in the know, especially if they have actively referred their students, but to an independent counselor, which I think happens. It's like a snowball's chance in hell, honestly, because I don't think that happens very often. It's very few Hinas of the world that will actually refer, or Nidhi that will actually refer a student to an external counselor. It doesn't happen very often. But when I think the other challenge is also that sometimes school counselors don't even know that their students are being that who their students are going to from a career counseling perspective outside of the school. The third challenge is that school counselors are struggling with their own bandwidth to just manage the students and get their basic stuff done. And so monitoring is almost like a pipe dream, I feel like, for a lot of them, because how do they even keep abreast unless there is a structured understanding and communication between the independent counselor and the school, which again does not exist. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't. It's just that it does not exist right now. So that feedback loop the onus of that feedback loop lies on both ends. And not many independent counselors wish to share updates either with school counselors because there is just no relationship with the school counselor. So I think there is a there's a dysfunctional relationship between school counselors and independent counselors for the largest part in our country. And it's something worth thinking about. But I'm guessing more conversations like this will hopefully lead to some structured relationships, maybe.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah, right. Yeah, so I think Bhakti, that crux, that it just gets the entire session today, more conversations like this. Saurabh, I think that's what you have ignited. You've got the ripples lining up, and then, it's a bunch of people where we have ICs, we have school counselors, we have service providers, all of us. So we really need to see actually how the collaboration would come. Uh, any other thoughts by anybody before we conclude, and being mindful about everybody's time? Or Saurabh, you have heard so many people on this thing. If you want to add on something as a conclusion, or as a, before we end up some points.
I would just like to, kind of give you a bigger picture. Every industry goes through these phases, all right, of consolidation and disruption. So whenever there's something new, like Kala said, there's a lot of customized counseling happening. It is happening because there's a demand in the market, right? And we are all, supplying to that demand. So there's a lot of disruption happening to existing counseling practices. And that is why it's very difficult for people who have been in the counseling business for quite some time to understand what's happening. That's normal. This is going to happen again and again. But now everyone is recognizing collaboration is required. Why? Because disruption has taken place and consolidation now needs to come. And then another 5-7 years, there will be another wave of disruption. So this is going to happen again and again. What remains constant is the trust, because people have survived both disruption and consolidation cycles, and they will continue to do so in the future also. Some people do not survive that. Who do not survive? Who have zero trust in the market, who have zero trust with other professionals in the market. So those are the concluding remarks from my side.
Thank you, Saurabh, for that optimistic conclusion for us that yes, the disruption has already happened. Now we all need to come together and collaborate. Thank you, everyone, for taking out this time. Beautiful conversation. And I think that's what Wednesdays or all our L&D initiatives are, to get a forum where we can actually openly, candidly discuss about some issues that, maybe in our areas we are dwelling into, but coming and sharing on these platforms just gives us another perspective. Thank you, all of us. Thank you, Saurabh, again for being here, giving us this insight. Thank you to the TOC family for taking out time and being here. Uh, have a wonderful evening and amazing week ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Saurabh. And Saurabh, Charu, Hina, Ashima, and Nidhi have shared the independent counselor repository form with you. Have a look at it, because it will need your inputs in terms of areas of expertise. Make your edits, and then we'll circulate it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Have a good time. Bye.